Hey everybody, I'm David Magone. Yesterday on the Yoga Transitions page, Mandy posted a question where she asked about some tips for pressing to a handstand from a straight-legged position. She's gotten to the point where she can actually straddle up into it with sort of a butterfly effect in the legs, but she's finding it more difficult to go up with both legs totally straight. So today I wanted to film just a brief tutorial for those of you who want to try working toward this, and then you can build up to it with a little bit of practice. Now, when you're pressing to a handstand with straight legs, there's a couple things you need to keep in mind. First and foremost, that the shoulders need to pass ahead of the wrists. So when you're pressing up into it, as you start the hips moving up, you basically need to move the shoulders a little bit further forward in order to counterweight some of the weight that's positioned in the back of the body. The second thing to focus in on is whether or not you're going to do it as an abdominal sort of entrance with hollowing or as a back extension exercise. For me personally, I like to use my back muscles to lever into the posture as opposed to really belly crunching down to the front. So when pressing into the handstand, I always imagine that I've got a really long tail that I'm trying to essentially lift up to touch the top of my head. That essentially encourages the back extensors to work and helps those large muscles basically pull my body's weight up into the posture. Now, third and finally, one other thing that you'll find very helpful is a little bit of momentum. If you start out from a completely static press and press your hands into the floor, it's a little bit difficult to get up. But if you lift your chest just a little bit and then power down from that point there, sometimes the momentum that you get by pressing into the floor will help radiate up through your body and you'll get a little higher. Now, this definitely takes a bunch of practice, but initially to get it started, you'll want to make sure your hamstrings are warm so you can do a full standing forward fold. Once you get to the point where you can, you start out with your fingertips or your palms on the floor. Now remember, as you're pressing into this, you want the shoulders to pass the wrists. So rather than pressing up to this position here where my shoulders are right above the wrists, I'm going to rock a little bit of weight forward, and as I put weight in my palms, that's going to transfer the weight ahead of the wrists themselves. Now, the second fundamental, again, is back extension. So rather than rounding the back like this and engaging my abdominals, I'm going to do the exact opposite. I'm going to try to keep my collarbones lifted. I'm going to pretend that I've got that really long tail, and I'm going to lift it high as I can as though I'm trying to touch it to the top of my head. Now, third and finally, instead of just pressing down from this position, I'm going to get a little bit of momentum by lifting up to my fingers first, and then from there, as I basically press my hands into the floor, that'll give a little bit of momentum for the press off. So essentially, to link all those together, you start with a big inhale. Collarbones and tailbone lifts. As you lean forward, you press. You essentially draw the tail up toward the ceiling as though you're trying to touch the tail to the top of the head. And once you get full extension, you press out to the arms to lengthen things out. And if at any given point you start to fall, you can basically step one hand forward just a little bit. So that's it. You know, if you're not ready for the full press, you can start by lifting your feet just a little tiny bit, and then with some practice, you take them a little bit higher and a little bit higher until you can do the full extravaganza. So give it a shot, and let me know how it goes, and hit me up if you have any questions. Have fun.